If you're struggling with upper back and shoulder pain right now, imagine how much worse it could get over the next 3, 6 months, a year, or even longer. You don't want it spreading up into your neck, or worse, even going up into the back of your head, causing headaches, right? So we want to make sure that this doesn't happen. I've been a chiropractor for 14 years. I've helped hundreds of people get rid of their upper back and shoulder pain, whether it's coming from sitting too much, stress, or an old injury. I've seen it all. And I know what actually works to help get rid of it. My name is Dr. Erik. I'm the owner of My Health Solution Chiropractic and Weight Loss in Stillwater. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to relieve your upper back and shoulder pain very quickly. You'll learn what's really causing it, and then the number one thing that you can do right now so that you can start feeling better right away. And here's how we're going to fix the upper back and shoulder issues. This is what we go through when people come into the office as well. So first thing we got to do is we really got to find the root cause of what's going on. Most people think it's just tight muscles through the back, which is why they don't think it's that big of a deal. But the problem usually comes from 3 different areas. It's coming from poor posture, spinal misalignment, and weak muscles. Second thing is that we've got to restore the normal range of motion through the joints. And then the last part is that we've got to make sure that we strengthen and stretch the muscle imbalances that have developed over time through very simple things, exercise that you can do at home, so that way we can actually, once again, address those root causes. The challenge is that if you ignore the pain, it's typically not going to go away just on its own. And in fact, it usually gets worse. And that's where it can lead to headaches and through where it travels up and through the neck and the back of the head, reduce mobility, or even worse, start to cause nerve issues where you can have issues going down the arm into your hands and fingers, numbness and fingers into your hands. And so the longer you wait, the harder it is to fix it. But the good news is that the sooner you address it, the faster you're going to feel better. And that's what we're going to go over right now. All right, so let's look at this first issue when we're looking at that upper shoulder and back pain from a postural standpoint. So the first thing, there's a couple things that take place. First, why is my mouse disappeared when I go on? There we go. Okay. So let's take a look at this from the postural issue first. There's a couple things that happen. One of the most common things that a lot of people go through is this forward head posture. So what happens is that your head kind of shifts forward. And then what happens as a result of that is every single one of the muscles of the entire back of the spine have to start contracting to hold that head up further, or hold that head up. Right. So the analogy I use a lot is think of like if you're holding a bowling ball. If you hold the bowling ball real close to your body, it's pretty light, not too bad. You can hold it. If you were to extend your arms all the way out, that bowling ball gets heavy really fast. And so that same thing happens with your head, is that the further that head moves forward, the more the muscles of not only in between the shoulder blades, literally the entire back of the spine have to hold that head up. So that's one of the first postural things that happens. Second thing that happens as we're looking at this from a postural standpoint is the shoulders start to get rounded forward. And this also happens whether it's posture at work, things that you're doing on a regular basis. And so when we're looking at the shoulders rounding forward, is that these shoulders through here on both sides, like I said, they get pushed forward. So same thing that happens on this side, those shoulders get pushed forward. And so what happens is that as those shoulders get rounded forward, that means the muscles in between the shoulder blades get stretched out, right? So the muscles on both sides of the shoulder blades get stretched out as those shoulders move forward. So for example, when we're looking at this, like I said, the shoulders get pulled forward and the muscles in the back get overstretched. So then what happens is that you end up getting a lot of tightness right in between the shoulder blades. Basically, this whole area through here starts to get really, really tight, and that's where you get a lot of that upper back shoulder issues. As that progresses, that's where it can work up into the neck and actually go all the way back up into the back of the head, or sometimes even wrap all the way into the front and causing pain and headaches in through the front. So this is where this happens from the postural side of things. Okay, so next what we're going to do is just take a look at what happens to the joints when this takes place. All right, so next we're going to talk about what happens to the joints and why this is so important to get these adjusted at the chiropractic clinic as well. So when we're looking at the joints of the spine through here, we can see that you've got all the vertebrae through the back, and the joints in the mid back here are all the ones that are attached to the ribs. So what happens is that there's 3 different kind of directions that these joints can get stuck. So I'm going to show that to you right here. So obviously this is looking at the spine from behind. This would be looking at it from above. and then this would be looking at it from the side. So when we're looking at it from behind, there's kind of the direction that these joints can get shifted out of position in. So if we're looking at these processes here, let's say that this right side gets shifted up. That means that the left side is going to get shifted down, right? Or vice versa, right? So you could switch that around and say that the left side shifts up, and that means that the right side's going to get shifted down through there. So this side gets shifted down. So that's the first range of motion that can happen. The second thing that can happen is that when we're looking at the joints, let's say we're looking at it from this direction, then the next thing that can happen is that these joints, this joint could get shifted backwards, which means that it's going to get shifted forward on that side. Or once again, vice versa, it's going to get shifted backwards on this side, which means then it gets shifted forward on the other side. So that's the second thing that can happen. The third thing that can happen is if we're looking at it from this direction, that the back here can get shifted up, which means that the front is going to get shifted down. Still getting used to these arrows. Or vice versa, right? So that means that the front gets shifted. I'll get this figured out. Up, and then that means that the back is shifted down, right? So those are the different ranges of motion that can happen. And so it's super important as we're going through this and we're looking at the spine, that those joints of the spine are moving properly. Because if these joints don't move the way that they're supposed to, then all of the muscles that are attached to these joints, right? Every one of these little pointy spots through here have muscles attached to them. And so if this joint is not working the way it's supposed to, all of those muscles that are attached to this are going to start to spasm up as well. So we need to make sure that we address that component of it. So let's kind of talk about the muscle part of it next. All right, so this last part here, we're actually going to be talking about these muscle imbalances that show up. So initially we talked about the how the shoulders get pulled forward through here, and then that causes the muscles in between the shoulder blades to tighten up. We just finished going over how those muscles, when those joints get shifted out of position, then that can also, once again, create a lot of tension and tightness for all these muscles that are attached in through the spine here. And then the last part is looking at actually what's happening with the muscle imbalances. Is that the problem, even though you're feeling the pain in between the shoulders through here, right? So even though you're feeling it in this area of the back, this is not the cause of the problem. This is the reaction. So what's happening is that because those muscles in the front are getting pulled forward, the thing that's actually taking place is that these pec muscles are actually too tight. And so what happens is that oftentimes you will see areas in through the pecs here that are very sensitive or sore. And so you usually find them kind of right in the corner of the pecs, right through here. And so what happens is that you start to develop knots within the muscles of the shoulders and then, or in the pecs here. And then so when those muscles get tight, they pull the shoulders forward, and then these muscles get overstretched. Okay. And so it's those three different things that are causing problems. It's the postural imbalances of those shoulders coming forward. It's the joints being shifted out of position. And then it's these muscles in the front being too tight. And this is kind of where the question becomes like the chicken or the egg, right? Does the muscles in the front cause the postural imbalance? Does the postural imbalance coming through here pull the joints out of position? Or does the joints being shifted out of position create the muscle spasm through here, which then also iterates in through the front, right? So what we're going to do here, last thing, I just want to show you a really simple quick stretch that can help you alleviate that pain in between the shoulders temporarily. Like I said, it's not doing anything to fix the joint problem through here, but the goal is to stretch these muscles out in the front. So this is how you're going to do that. All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to actually do the doorway stretch. So the first thing that you want to find is your doorway that you're doing the stretch in. Second, when you put your arm up in through the door frame, you want both your wrist and your elbow on the door frame. You don't want just the wrist through there. You want to make sure both are on it. Second thing is you want to make sure that your elbow is at least shoulder height, if not even slightly higher. You don't want your elbow to be below the shoulder. When you are standing, you actually want to stand right in the middle of the door frame through there. And the other thing that you want to do is kind of the first step is you want to rotate your feet so they're not pointing forward, but they're actually turning away from the door frame on the side that your arm is on. So you're going to turn your feet away, have your arm up on the door frame, and then the last part is just going to lean into the door. And as you do that, you should feel a really good stretch right in through the pecs here. So just a refresher, elbow and wrist on the door frame, elbow shoulder height. You're going to turn your hips away and lean right into the door. So when you're doing this stretch, a couple things to really pay attention to. First, you want to make sure you're holding your stretch long enough. Most people do not hold their stretches long enough. You want to hold it for at least 30 seconds. 30 to 45 seconds is great. Second, obviously make sure you're doing both sides. Most of the time, people get a little better stretch if you're doing one arm at a time. Some people can try both, play around with it, see what works best for you, and then do each side multiple times. So usually do each side 2, maybe 3 times if you really need it. And if you can do this once every hour, once every 2 hours throughout the day, especially if you have a desk job, it'll make a really big difference. Realize when you're doing this, even though you're stretching the front, like I said, we're getting that back to loosen up. It's not going to feel better in the back immediately, but usually 5-10 minutes later is where it's going to start to feel better, especially if you do a good job at doing this throughout the day. So hopefully this gives you some really great information. If for whatever reason things still aren't feeling better, like I said, the part that we're not able to do at home is the adjustments. Give us a call at the clinic. We'll see what we can do to help you out to really alleviate this issue so it doesn't keep coming back over and over again. So thanks a lot. We'll see you guys in the next one.